Some movies feel outdated right away, while others only get more accurate with time. Sci-fi often leans into the unreal, aliens, robots, and possible tech. But sometimes, a film imagines something distant that ends up feeling familiar. Not because it saw the future, but because it understood the present. And rewatching those films now doesn't feel like looking forward. It feels like seeing where we already are. This is a list of 10 sci-fi films that were way ahead of their time. Barbarella, 1968. The setup is simple. Barbarella is sent to find a missing scientist who might be building a weapon powerful enough to destroy the universe. The plot is mostly just an excuse to move from one bizarre set piece to another. Giant dolls with metal teeth, invisible keys, flying stingrays, a literal pleasure machine. Everything looks like a 1960s fashion commercial, but in space. The movie flopped in the US and France. It made just over $2.5 million in North America and a few $100,000 elsewhere. But in the UK, it became the second highest grossing film of the year. It was later re-released in the late 70s and became a cult classic. The villain's name would later inspire the band Duran Duran. One scene where Barbarella is strapped into a machine meant to kill by pleasure was condemned by the Catholic Office for Motion Pictures. And when she falls into a lake of pure evil, her innocence causes the evil to vomit her back out. Now, more than 50 years later, Sydney Sweeney is set to take on the role in a reboot, saying she's fascinated by the character's strange mix of vulnerability and control. Some fans are skeptical, while most agree she's talented. Others aren't sure she fits the tone or spirit of the original, which was both ironic and oddly sincere. The project's long development has only added to the uncertainty, with people wondering if the final film will match the weird cult status it's trying to revive. Fantastic Voyage, 1966. A scientist is nearly assassinated, and to save him, a medical team is miniaturized and injected into his bloodstream in a submarine. They have an hour to navigate through his body and perform brain surgery from the inside. It's part action, part biology lesson, and very much a product of its time, but it still holds up in weird ways. It made around $12 million, which was considered a solid performance for its time, and earned an Oscar for its visual effects, especially the way it visualized the human body with blood cells floating like balloons and arteries stretching out like tunnels. A well-known science writer published a version of the story before the film came out, which led a lot of people to assume the movie was based on his book, but it was actually the other way around, which is already kind of strange. But what makes it even weirder is that the movie never actually explains what happens to the submarine once the mission's over. Nobody brings it up, and nobody seems all that concerned. And for more than 50 years, people have been quietly wondering how the film just leaves that part out. Blade Runner 1982. Deckard is a Blade Runner part detective and part executioner, sent after synthetic humans who weren't built to last and aren't supposed to stick around. But the more time he spends tracking them through the rain and neon haze of the city, the more he starts to see something real in them. The fear in their eyes, the way they fight to survive, the memories they cling to like they actually mean something, and somewhere in the middle of all that, he begins to wonder if the difference between them and him is really as clear as it's supposed to be. It made around $27 million when it came out, which wasn't quite enough to be considered a hit, but just enough to avoid being called a total failure. Most critics didn't really know what to make of it, but over the years, all those criticisms started sounding more like compliments. The most famous moment, the Tears and Rain speech, wasn't even in the script. And yet, somehow, it captured the entire heart of the movie, the fear that memory might be the only real thing we ever own. 2001. A Space Odyssey, 1968. The movie starts with apes discovering tools and ends with a glowing space baby. In between, there's a monolith, a trip to Jupiter, and an artificial intelligence named Hal that quietly kills almost the entire crew. The film is slow, and some people walked out when it first screened. But others stayed, and those who stayed saw something they couldn't quite explain. It made $66 million worldwide, which for a philosophical space movie with no traditional plot was huge. It wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but the influence it left is hard to overstate. The use of classical music, the silence of space, the way Hal's voice sounds calm even as he murders people, all of it changed how sci-fi was made. Kubrick destroyed all the sets after production. He didn't want them reused, which makes sense because nothing about this film was meant to be ordinary. Solaris, 1972. A psychologist is sent to a space station orbiting a planet that seems to be alive. When he arrives, he finds the crew haunted by physical manifestations of their memories. In his case, it's his dead wife, except she's not really her. She's a reflection made by the planet. In the Soviet Union, it sold 10.5 million tickets. Including the West, it was cut by 30 minutes and didn't do well. The author of the book hated the adaptation. Tarkovsky, who directed it, said it was a failure. But now, it's considered one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made. Alex is a violent teenager who leads a gang through a future that feels familiar in all the worst ways. After being arrested, he undergoes a new treatment called the Ludovico technique. It rewires his brain so that violence makes him physically ill, but it also makes him powerless. The film asks whether removing someone's ability to choose, even if they choose evil, is still moral. It made 73 million worldwide. But it was banned in several countries and pulled from UK theaters after it was linked to real crimes. Kubrick himself made that decision. Using classical music during scenes of violence caught a lot of people off guard when the movie came out. The way the characters talk sounds made up, like their own private language, and people still quote it even if they don't really understand it. And that one scene where Alex is strapped down with his eyes held open, forced to watch horrible things. That image stuck with people. It's been referenced so many times, you've probably seen it even if you've never seen the movie. Westworld, 1973. Imagine Disneyland, but instead of animatronics, you have lifelike robots that let you play out fantasies. That's the premise. There's a Wild West park, a Roman one, and a medieval one. Things go fine until the robots start killing people. It made $2 million in its first week, which was great for its budget. By 1976, it had made $7.4 million. It was one of the first movies to feature a computer virus. Yul Brynner's robot character doesn't talk. He just stalks people. And he inspired almost every killer robot that came after, including the Terminator. The park's safety system relies on guns that can't fire at warm bodies. It makes sense until it doesn't, and that's kind of the point. Technology works until it stops. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978. It starts with people acting slightly off, friends forgetting small details, neighbors losing their personalities, couples growing distant for no reason. A San Francisco health inspector notices these changes and slowly uncovers that people are being replaced by perfect duplicates grown from alien spores. These replicas don't kill or attack. They simply become you, only without emotions. The real horror isn't invasion, but erasure. There's no war, just silence and disappearance. People go to sleep and don't wake up the same, and once it's happened to someone, there's no getting them back. The film made about $25 million and features cameos from the original 1956 cast, but its legacy rests on the final moment. Donald Sutherland's character turning, pointing, and unleashing a soundless scream. It's not just fear, it's realization. The terror of knowing you're the last one who feels anything at all. The Abyss, 1989. After a U.S. submarine sinks near a deep-sea trench, a civilian diving crew is sent to help recover it. Once underwater, strange things begin to happen. Flickering lights, odd sounds, and eventually glowing forms that seem intelligent, even empathetic. The deeper they go, the stranger it gets. Hallucinations appear, tensions rise, and eventually they realize they're not alone. One crew member drowns and is brought back in a brutal, prolonged resuscitation scene. Another moment, where a liquid tentacle mimics a human face, became an early landmark in CGI. It made around $54 million, though the film is better remembered for its grueling shoot, during which Ed Harris nearly drowned. But the message wasn't about the danger of the unknown. It was about how we respond to contact with fear or curiosity, and whether something more evolved than us would even see us as worth fearing at all. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977. Strange things start happening all over the world. Planes lost for decades suddenly turn up. Power flickers out for no reason. Lights move in ways they shouldn't. One man sees something and can't shake it. He starts building the same shape over and over, not knowing why, driving his family away in the process. He's not losing his mind. Something's pulling him toward a place he doesn't even know exists. The government knows more than they're saying. They figured out a way to talk back, 5 simple notes that don't need words. And when the ships land, it's not war, it's music. It's quiet. It's something closer to trust. It made over $300 million and redefined what first contact could look like. Not fear, not fighting, just a question finally being answered. A soft-spoken scientist leads the effort to translate. And for once, the unknown doesn't come to destroy us, it just comes to say hello.